Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And at the very top of the show, I just wanted to correct something from last week's podcast. Now, last week's podcast was a bumper episode. It was our big return to podcasting. We posted episodes, so you'd have content every week, but we took some time off. Now, when I was editing the podcast and getting it ready to be published on Buzzsprout, I said we'd been off for 2 weeks. And in fact, we was off for about 6 weeks.
It was a lot longer than that.
So I just wanted to correct that at the top of the show, that if you wondered why we was making this big deal about being a comeback, and then I said we was off for 2 weeks. No, we was off for about 6 weeks.
And based off of the amount of news we have, I think it would be pretty obvious it was a lot longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I tried to take that bit out and edit it so it would flow properly. And whatever I did with the edit, it just sounded weird. So I just left it in, and I thought, well, I'm just going to correct this.
It's fine. It felt like 2 weeks because me and Tim had so much going on. That's what it was.
There we are. That's what it was. Okay. So before we get into the topic and everything like that, I just have some CDs of the week. In the plural, CDs.
Oh, wow. All right. What you got?
Okay, so these are both brand new 2023 releases, and I've purchased both on compact disc, even though...
I like how he did that, like the audience can see him. I'm the only one who can see him.
Even though they've stopped putting CDs in plastic jewel cases, they just put them in cardboard sleeves now. So probably they'll tell you it's for environmental reasons, but in fact, it's probably for cost, really.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
But there we are. Anyhow, my first CD of the week is the new Foo Fighters album called But Here We Are. Now, this came out a little while ago, and this is like their big comeback of sorts, I suppose. It's the first thing they've released since we lost Taylor Hawkins. And Dave Grohl assumes drumming duties on this album. And it's really their sort of tribute to Taylor. And it's also the tribute to Dave Grohl's mother, Virginia, who was also lost just after we lost Taylor Hawkins. And a lot of the lyrics are very kind of deep and introspective. I mean, there's some sort of crushing rock songs like you'd expect on here, but a lot of them are quite deep. I like Rescued. I like Under You, which are the first couple of tracks off the album. And I think they were released ahead of the album coming out. But he also does a duet with his daughter, Dave Grohl.
I didn't even know his daughter did music.
Yeah, she's called Show Me How. And she's been joining the Foo Fighters on some of their live dates, which is really interesting. And the track is great. And even some of the live performances are superb.
So is she just singing, or is she a musician in another way?
I don't know. I know she's a vocalist because she was at the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert singing. I don't think it was this song, but was singing some songs. I don't know whether she's creating music or anything along those sort of lines, but certainly her and her dad duetting on here is actually a really good song.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I guess, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And anytime you can get somebody vocally who's kin to someone, it almost always, I don't want to say harmony because that's not what harmony is. They may harmonize, but they just sound very good together for some reason that it works.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the thing is, this album is very different from the last album. I mean, I was singing the praises of the previous Foo Fighters album, but, they've made this and they're very much a different band than they were only a few years ago. So we will see what their next release after this will be like, whether they'll return to form of just being, crashing rock songs, or whether they'll continue with their sort of introspectiveness that this album has. But I don't know. I've listened to this multiple times and I liked it enough to spend $14.99 on it.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough to me. Yeah.
There we are. Even though I would like to complain that it's white, which is fine. However, they've printed it in like off-white color. So you can't see anything on the cover. It's obviously a design choice, but like I'm having to hold it up to the light to see the track list. And then if you pull out the lyric sheet, and I'm going to pull this out for Joy, because obviously this is really good for an audio podcast.
We're really good about doing that.
Here we
to
are.
be fair, when you were holding it up, Tim, I thought I was looking at the back, and then you flipped it over, and I was like, the whole thing's white.
So you've got this, and I'm showing it to Joy. This is the lyric sheet. Can you even look?
No, I see vaguely when your camera kind of focuses.
Yeah, it's off-white printed on white. And as I said, I know this is like some kind of design choice, but it's almost unreadable because I was interested in reading the credits to confirm that Dave did play on it, and you can barely read it. You have to X-ray it or something to read it.
Well, I mean, design choices are great, but you still have to have functionality, you know?
Exactly. Okay. Well, that's CD of the week one. Highly
How
recommended.
old I am now, Tim. Gotta have functionality.
Exactly. You can get that on your Spotify's and your YouTubes and all those kind of places.
Hit clips.
Hit clips, mini discs, 8 tracks, you name it. I was actually listening to the 8-track episode we recorded today. I always like to listen to all of our episodes just so I can see how we can make it better or if there's anything that can be changed, etc. And the one I was listening today was the 8-track episode.
Well, did you learn anything, Tim, that you don't remember from when we recorded it?
It's Probably funny not. Because I try and listen to it completely objectively, as if it's not me. And then I listened to it and I was like, I don't even remember saying that.
I do it too. I'm like, why did I even? It's something like, why did I say that? All right. What's the next album you have for us, sir?
Okay. So this is an album which is only actually delivered today, though I've listened to it on Spotify many times.
All right.
And this is the new album from Extreme. And it's an album called Six, because it's their 6th album. And it has an ape on the front. And I think I read somewhere that ape is Portuguese for 6, or it's I think one of the languages of the band that they speak. I know that Nuno Bettencourt speaks Portuguese, so I think it could be Portuguese. It's a language, and that's why it has an ape on the cover. But what's quite cool, both the record and the CD, the ape on the front is sort of embossed. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's actually really cool. I like that.
So you can physically feel it, yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like this album. I suppose I had sort of low expectations. I like the classic Extreme. I like Extreme 2 Pornography. Their first album's pretty good. I even like 3 Sides to Every Story. I mean, there's some great music in the Extreme catalog.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know they were still together.
Well, I think they sort of fell apart for a while because Gary Cherone joined Van Halen in the late 90s. And they did an album together and a few tours. And then that sort of fell apart. And then they got back together as Extreme.
Because I've heard of the 3 Sides to Every Story and then the Pornography one you're talking about, but I didn't. I just assumed they kind of faded out.
Well, I think they maybe lost a little bit of popularity because, everyone knows them as More Than Words and all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, they're back. They're back with 6. And this is really, really good. It's classic Extreme sound. It's a little bit industrial type 9 Inch Nails-y in a few places. And then towards the end of the album, they go into full-on ballads, not so much like More Than Words, but the more sort of laid-back type stuff.
It's right up Charles Thompson's alley, then. He loves Extreme.
Yeah, he would probably like this. The opening track on here, Rise, is a great hard rock track, and it probably has the greatest guitar solo recorded to tape in maybe the last 20 years. There's videos of Nuno Bettencourt playing it live, doing it obviously in one take and a live performance. And I mean, it's to some degree, it's standard stuff. It's fast picking, it's hammer-ons, it's muting, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I look at it as a guitar player and I can see exactly what he's doing. But to do it with that speed and accuracy every time, it's just like, wow.
So is he known in the guitar world as like a fantastic guitar?
Absolutely 100%. Brian May says that Nuno Bettencourt is his favorite rock guitar player.
Huh. I mean, that's high praise for sure.
Exactly. And I don't know. I really like this. As I said, a lot of the tracks are good. There's one track on here called Beautiful Girls, and the lyrics are incredibly predictable and cringy, if I'm being honest.
Well, the name of his Beautiful Girls, let's be honest, it's like 30,000 songs summed up in one title.
Exactly. But the guitar solo on it must be Nuno's tribute to Brian May, because it starts and then there's like it's all like in harmony guitars, and there's one lazy bend that's almost exactly the same thing as that Brian May does on Dreamer's Ball. And I don't know, I've heard it so many times I keep winding it back because I think this is great. It's like, because he starts off doing the Brian May thing and then towards the end he does his own thing. It's really, really good.
Nice tribute then.
Absolutely. So I recommend everybody goes out and listens to Extreme's 6. If you liked the early Extreme stuff and you're a fan of guitar music or rock in general, I really don't think you can go wrong with this.
Sounds good. I'll let Charlie know he needs to download it on his hit clip player when we get off of here.
There we are. He can bust out his DCC deck or whatever he's using.
Obviously.
Well, there we are. Well, and before we get into the topic, I found out something today, and this may be old news, but it's new news to me. So I wanted to run it past you.
Well, we once talked about a song from the 1600s, so it doesn't take much to be new to us. All right, what is it?
So what I found out today, Don Henley from the Eagles, all right?
Yes.
So you have people like Sammy Hagar. Mm-hmm. Sammy Hagar is a cool guy. And the other week or 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, I don't know if we covered this on the podcast. He flew into Vegas because he had some business dealings there. And he heard that there was the Sammy Hagar tribute band 3 Lock Box playing at the Palms. And being had Sammy Hagar, he's like, I'm going to just go down and watch it. This is going to be great. And he's not affiliated with them. So
that would make me so nervous if I was a member of the band.
So he goes down there. Yeah. And then somehow gets backstage, and then he joins them on stage and sings with his own tribute band with a guy dressed like him who looks a bit like him.
Of course.
And then Sammy Hagar's having the best time of his life. So you've got that. That's one end of the spectrum of rock stars being cool.
Okay.
Now, I found out today, Don Henley of Eagles fame.
Yeah.
He's got this one-man crusade about getting Eagles covers, Eagles music, Eagles tutorials, Eagles removed from YouTube.
I've heard he's in the realm in my brain from what I've heard. I've never heard of that specifically, but I've heard unkind things about the way he treats people. Like stage pans and fans and things of that nature. Now, you never know how much of that is truth and how much of that is false, to get in the news. Probably like everything else, the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? But he kind of sits up there with me with Hall and Oates, Daryl Hall. He reminds me of him.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is true. Does Daryl Hall have this? This is what Don Henley has. He employs 60 people who sit in a room going on YouTube, finding Eagles music, and then doing the takedown claim thing.
So no, not to my knowledge. And I mean, Daryl Hall has people literally covering him on that Daryl's House show all the time. So I don't think he has a problem with it. But I don't know why. I mean, well, no, and no offense to Don Henley, but Witchy Woman and The Long Run and all these songs aren't really that hard to copy anyway.
No, and I mean, see, there's some things. So people will post stuff to YouTube. Creators will post stuff to YouTube, and it may have a snippet of a copyrighted song in it. And if it does, you can't monetize it. So if you're a YouTuber that does video games or whatever, it doesn't matter. The amount of views, you actually get money back from YouTube. You get the advertising revenue back.
Yeah.
But if you have little clips of copyrighted music on there, you are unable to monetize that clip. So your whole clip then, if it's making money, goes to the copyright holder, which is why often when you see YouTube videos and they say, oh, I had to edit a bit out because it was content matched. And that's what that's all about. So it's not like his team of 60 people is going through videos, finding ones that have got the little clip in and saying, hey, you can't make money off this. It's my song, so I'm going to make some money off it, which is fair. It's his creative work. Yeah. I completely get that. But he's going through YouTube, finding stuff with Eagles music on it, or like a drum cover of Hotel California or whatever, any kind of Eagles or Don Henley music, and he's getting it completely removed.
And why does he care? It's not like he's going to make money off of that. My version, let's say there's a version of me singing Hotel California on YouTube, right, Tim? Whatever. He's not going to make money off of it. All he's doing is taking away a little bit of something. It makes no sense to me. I get if somebody were monetizing things and you know what I'm saying, Tim, but if I put up a cover of Hotel California, I'm not going to make any money off of it. He's not going to make any money off of it. Why does he care?
I know. And I mean, he's stinking filthy, stinking rich. I do not understand the thought of that. As I said, I can understand to some degree if he was clicking the switch that says, yes, this is my creative work and I deserve to be compensated for the thousands of plays or whatever.
But just to get it removed.
Just to get it removed.
It's like a slap in the face to other people. And what's funny you say that is this is one of the other things I've heard, specifically of the Eagles. I've heard Glenn Fry, and I've heard Don Henley, and a bunch of them. They said that backstage at an Eagles concert was super. There was no partying. I think the exact words they said is it was like a morgue. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if it's true. That's just what I've heard. So this doesn't shock me, but no, I've never heard that specific fact.
And the other thing you need to know about the other thing you need to know about Eagles, okay, you should never ever refer to it as the Eagles. If you say the Eagles,
and I do it all the time,
Don Henley himself will come around your house and sort you out. Just saying.
Mean, he's going to get this taken down, Tim. I think I said the Eagles earlier. we're gone. There's just going to be a little outro of Tim playing Hotel California in spite of you can't hide those. Anyway, go ahead. So anyway, moving along, Tim, I guess we're on to the topic.
We are indeed. So this week's topic, we are paying tribute to the music of Tina Turner. Now, we lost Tina Turner just a short while ago. Incredibly sad, such a big loss to the music community. And we decided not to dwell on her story or, you know, all the stuff that you've probably read in the 100 obituaries that we've read recently. Yep. We just thought we would concentrate straight on the music of Tina Turner. Now, this is a very unique No Name Music Cast episode. Actually, almost unique like the last one that we collaborated on. This one is also unique in so much as that Joy and I knew the topic ahead of time, and we both compiled lists of Tina Turner songs that we would like to talk about. So we're going to start the episode. I'm going to open the floor, and I'm going to pass it over to Joy first, and she's going to pick the first Tina Turner song as we celebrate the work of Tina Turner.
All right. So there's a lot to pick from, but I think I'm going to start with my favorite, which we've talked about many times. I've said many times from 1973. It's got to be Nutbush City Limits. I have never. So for those who don't know, Nutbush City Limits is about the hometown Tina Turner grew up in, and it's literally a one-horse town. And she talks about, you know, it's kind of an interesting thing because she comes off as not as a country girl, but she is a country girl. Like she grew up in the country. Nutbush City Limits is obviously Nutbush. But is it Kentucky or is it Tennessee? I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
It's Tennessee.
Okay, Tennessee, Kentucky or Tennessee. I couldn't remember. Tim answered the question. But I find it very interesting because it plays on the, I mean, it doesn't come off as a country song. It just sounds her talking about it. I grew up in Southwest Virginia. So for me, I understand what she's saying. There was 2 stoplights in the city that I went to high school in. But Glee did it. So they did a diva episode. And one of the examples, they had somebody come in, and Naya Riviera, which sadly she has passed away now too. She was the one who, if you don't remember, she passed away on the boat. She saved her son's life and passed away on the boat. She did a great version of it. And that's why I had Kentucky, because she was in Kentucky on Glee. That's why it was in my brain. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She did a great version of it as an example of a diva, because it was a diva. And I think it's perfect because her vocals are rich. That horn section's fantastic. That intro is iconic. And then when she goes straight into you know what I mean? It's just perfect. It's the most perfect combination of all the factors when I think of Tina Turner.
Yeah. And the thing is, for me, the Nutbush City Limits was a song that I first started playing in Rough Justice. That was a Rough Justice song in the original set when I joined the band in 1995. And I think we played it a little bit in the later eras of Rough Justice too, but certainly in the early days, we was all over Rough Justice. And it was one of those songs that a lot of cover bands and jam nights and freak jam and all that stuff used to do Nutbush City Limits.
Well, and when I was researching, I knew it was one of her earlier songs, obviously, but it was the first song she ever wrote. And then it was on her first solo album. So I think it was her way of introducing herself to the world. And it couldn't be more perfect. But also the music is so good. Not just her singing, but the actual, and I don't know to what extent she wrote it. I don't know if she wrote all the music. I don't know if she just wrote the lyrics. Of course, you know how that goes. It could be control. But the music, as a band, I can imagine playing it is probably really fun.
It is. It's a simple song to play. It's A, C, and G all the way through. But yeah, it's a real driving power song. And when we did it in Rough Justice, Hog, Paul, obviously was the singer, and he used to really kill that song. It was fantastic.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun to sing too. I can imagine as well, and it's probably a crowd favorite. I'm sure because that when that comes on, everybody knows it. It's iconic, and so that's what I loved. And like I said, the Glee version was. I thought it was funny that was their example of a diva, and that was the song they went with instead of like a classic Barbra Streisand or a Whitney Houston. They're like, no, this is a diva.
Exactly. I'm hoping one day to go to Nutbush. I don't think it's super far from here. I think it's somewhere near Nashville, I think.
I would think so. Let's see. Nutbush, Tennessee. Let's give it a Goog. Let's find out 10 live on air. Okay. Maps. For those who don't know what I'm doing, I'm obviously looking on the internet on Google Maps. Let's see. It's it's out past. It's on the other side. It's near Memphis, Tim. So it's down by Memphis. It's like right above Memphis. It does say it's about an 8-hour drive. So you would be it'd have to be a 2-day trip, or you could fly, of course. But
yeah, I mean, I went to Memphis not that long ago. I could have done a detour to Nutbush, but there you go. You think of that stuff now when you're sitting in your house, not when you're driving around.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it looks like Nutbush would be on your way to Memphis. So
okay, but there we are. I should have taken a detour.
I wonder if it's grown up now because of the song and the people, or if it's still very small.
I don't know. Some places in Southwest Virginia and Franklin County have been there for a long time, and they're just like nothing towns.
It's true. And I mean, I've never heard of, I don't know if Nutbush is like an actual bush or why it's named Nutbush. But anyway. All right. What's your song, Tim?
Okay. So the first song I tried not to have completely obvious Tina Turner songs, but This was an interesting one. So this is from the Tommy film soundtrack album. And this is her doing the Who song, The Acid Queen. Are you familiar with the Tommy film and the accompanying soundtrack?
I have not seen the film, but I am familiar with her version of Acid Queen. It's from like mid-70s, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. I've never watched Tommy, though. Sorry.
I've seen it many times. Hannah got really obsessed with it 15 years or so ago. And there's a scene in it where Elton John has these massive DM boots because he's the pinball
that's
wizard.
The one you've talked about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I found out what happened to the boots, and they were in a shoe museum in Northampton. And then we did a day trip to Northampton just to see Elton John's boots.
Now that it's like isn't it like a rock opera or something along those lines?
Yeah. I mean, the music album came first of Tommy. And it tells the story of the deaf, dumb, and blind kid who was abused, but later on he became a really good pinball player, and then he became like a messiah. And it was the story is a bit wacky and out there, and it's like Pete Townsend social commentary and all that kind of stuff. But then later on they made a film of the Who album. And then the soundtrack album is different to the original Who album, though it's the same songs. And the soundtrack album has some members of the Who playing on it, and it also has people from the film singing on it as well.
Are there so I mean, obviously Tina and Elton, is there any other big names involved?
Let me have a look. I can pull it up
Not
here.
that this is an episode about Tommy. I'm just generally curious.
Yeah, on the album you have Oliver Reed, Anne Margaret, Eric Clapton, Paul Nicholas. Obviously Elton John. I think Roger Daltrey himself sings on it, and Keith Moon actually sings some of the songs as well. Yeah, it's an interesting album. I think for me, the Who album isn't quite as good as the movie soundtrack album, which is weird.
I mean, maybe they worked on it a little bit longer.
Maybe.
But that song, I've heard this song a few times, like she's talking about being a gypsy and the Acid Queen. So it goes along with what you're saying. I'm guessing the movie's pretty trippy. So
yeah, it's wacky and out there, it's fair to say.
She's so like thrilling in the song, so that's cool. But yeah, that one was actually on my list, Tim, too. So we both hit Acid Queen.
there we go. It's and obviously she acts in the film as well.
Huh. Is she like the main character, or is she just one of the main characters? That's Tommy, of course.
She is the Acid Queen.
Oh, well, duh. But is that a main character, Tim? I don't know.
Well, the main character is Tommy, which is Roger Daltrey.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. I'm just going to pick another Tina song. This is going nowhere. I don't know anything about this movie. All right, what song am I going to pick? It feels so interesting because there's so many good songs. I'm going to stick with what I find to be. This song is in my head. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to pick this one for Tim. It's Tina Turner and it's Goldeneye from 1995 James Bond movie. Tim.
Well, that is a Timothy Dalton James Bond film. That doesn't come into my standard remit of Roger Moore era James Bond films.
So you're not a Pierce Brosnan person?
Yeah, well, actually, is it Timothy Dalton or is it Pierce Brosnan?
I think it's Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, maybe it's Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan, he channeled some Roger Moore. He had a little bit of the cheekiness. So, like, later on, James Bond films became far too serious. With Daniel Craig, it's closer to the books that Ian Fleming wrote. The character depiction is much closer. And the films are like very much dark and brooding, which seems to be the way that people like to make films these days. But Pierce Brosnan, he sort of channeled some of the fun of Bond. Because as we've said before, Roger Moore, it's almost like a caricature of the character.
Yeah.
And Sean Connery starts off being a little bit like the books, and a lot of the things he gets up to in modern times are not very cool. And it's some of it's really hard to watch now.
Pierce Brosnan hasn't aged well either.
No, but I mean, the Pierce Brosnan films, they have that little bit of that fun element about them, like the Roger Moore era's ones. And then, in fact, I remember a scene in one of the Pierce Brosnan ones. It could have been Goldeneye, I can't remember, but he's riding a jet ski down the Thames, and he's being chased by Russians with lemon piping or something like that. and then like some kind of ship is in the way, or so they're going to throw a mine, and everything's going to happen. So he dives the jet ski under the water. Of course, he's wearing a dinner jacket, obviously. He dives under the water and then comes up the other side and splooshes out and lands. And as he lands, he sort of just looks to the camera and makes sure his bow tie is straight. And that's what you want. That's what you want in your James Bond.
It just that little extra humor. And you're right. It does seem to be a big thing nowadays to make everything super dark. I was so in this one, I learned this song was written by Bono and The Edge from U2. And they specifically wrote it for her when they found out she was picked to do the James Bond film. So I thought that was kind of cool.
One thing about the Bono and The Edge is they're fine.
They're fine?
It's a Partridge references.
Oh, went right over my head. Didn't even. I'm like
I tried to slip it in, but you called me on it.
That makes it funnier. I just knew that they. I mean, and then in the video, I think Tina looks really cool because we're in like that white dress, and they've got like the Bond thing going around her. It's very Bond-esque. But I'm not a huge James Bond fan, and I'm not super up on my knowledge. But I meant when I said Pierce Brosnan didn't age well, I don't mean his Bond may have aged fine. I don't know. Him as a person didn't age well. He's not a nice guy anymore.
Really? I don't really know much about him.
I've heard he says wacky things nowadays on English TV, from what I understand.
There's a lot of people like that. You would think the older you get, so the more life experiences you have and the more people you meet and the more you travel, especially as somebody who's in the entertainment industry who's probably traveled the world 10 times over, your worldview would be one that would be very cool. But it seems but like a lot, it seems to go completely the opposite direction.
Yeah. Apparently he had like a super stellar reputation for the longest time, and then recently he just become a grumpy old man.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
But to be fair, that's only what I've seen on the news. I cannot confirm or deny it. Me and Pierce Brosnan are not hanging out or anything. So,
well, I mean, I know he hasn't been around your place for a while.
No, after the whole alcohol fiasco, we had to kick him out. You know, he hasn't come back.
It happens. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, he's totally on my call list. All right, Tim, what's your next song?
Okay, so this is one which I used to have. The only Tina Turner album I used to have was a compilation called Simply the Best. And I got that. I had a one-to-one mobile phone, as you would say in England.
Okay.
And I had that number for years, 07956251308. I can say the number because I don't have it anymore. There you go. That was my old telephone number that I had from year one until I left England.
Sorry, whoever has it now.
Yeah, if you have that number now, well, you just have to deal with it. But anyhow, I had that number for years, and they ran a promotion where if you recommended people to their service, you could win CDs. Well, not so much win them, but claim them. So they'd send you vouchers, and then you'd have a little book of what you could pick, and then you could pick them out. And there was a couple of people who I used to work with at Nationwide Building Society who got one-to-one phones, and I did the recommendation thing, and then I got the things to buy CDs. And one of the CDs I got was this Tina Turner Simply the Best album. And on that album was a track, Steamy Windows.
I am not familiar with that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, and it is a cover version, but have you never heard that?
I haven't. Who's the original? Just out of curiosity.
I was just trying to remember off the top of my head, and I couldn't remember. Who wrote Steamy Windows? Tony Joe White.
Doesn't ring a bell, no. I'm trying to think. I got nothing.
It says it was a top 10 hit in Belgium, Ireland, and Italy, and reaching the top 40 in the majority of the charts it appeared on. And what year did that come out? 1991.
Huh. Now I kind of want to dive into that because it's weird to me, but it's probably one of those songs that was popular overseas a lot more than here.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was more of a European hit. But it's got like a really cool riff. It's not super dissimilar to Nutbush in a lot of ways. It has that similar sort of driving riff all the way through it. But I don't know. I really like that song. I said it is a cover of Tony Joe White's original, and it's reasonably faithful to the original. But I don't know. It's one of those songs I remember mostly from that CD that I had. And we had MTV at the time, and the video for it was on heavy rotation in the early 90s.
I was going to say, was it early 90s? You just answered my question. So early 90s Tina. So I'm guessing she was probably wearing a very small black dress and heels.
Oh, of course. I mean, when I think of Tina, that's how I think of her.
And either short hair or very large bulbousy hair.
Oh, the hair was as tall as the Empire State Building. Again, that's exactly how you expect Tina to be.
Would we expect anything else? That's funny. I mean, it probably, and maybe I have heard it, it just doesn't ring a bell, especially if it sounds not unsimilar to some of our other music.
Sure. But I mean, it's a cool song. I recommend checking that out. I've made a Spotify playlist, which I'll be sharing with everybody when this episode posts. So you will be able to enjoy the delights of Steamy Windows, assuming that your country allows you to stream it, because sometimes odd songs you try and play on Spotify say, this is blocked for copyright reasons in your country. So assuming you're okay, Steamy Windows will be good to listen to.
Fair. All right. So I'm going to go into a power ballad, which also apparently is from a movie. I only recently learned it. It is We Don't Need Another Hero, which is a fantastic Tina Turner song. But apparently it was for the Mad Max sequel.
Yeah, Mad Max 2 Beyond Thunderdome. And in fact, that song, she sort of shoehorns the word Thunderdome in there. Just it says, when we go beyond Thunderdome. Oh. It's just in there.
That's smart. But I guess she starred in the movie too?
Yes,
she was in
did.
the movie. Huh.
Yeah.
And that's what she's in the video. I've never watched anything Mad Max. I'm just going to be honest with you. I wouldn't know.
No, I've never seen Mad Max 1 or 2. I don't really know much about it other than it's sort of dystopian future something or other. But that one's got Tina Turner in it, so it's obviously the best one of the series.
Fair enough. I mean, I could guess by the title Mad Max and what I've seen little clips of, that's what it's about. But I guess it was nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe. And then there was talk about it winning an Oscar that year, but it did not, sadly. So, but I mean, in the video, she's wearing kind of like dystopian type outfit too. And she's got these giant earrings that are like the size of her head. Have you seen those, Tim? Mm-hmm. They're huge. And all I could think while watching is how heavy that had to be. Every time I see somebody with earrings, I think about how heavy it is, because I have multiple piercings in my ears, so I have multiple holes. And I think anytime I wear earrings larger than a dime, I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah, I've never had my ears pierced ever in my life. Because I remember when I was younger, my friend Christopher West, who I went to primary school with, had his ears pierced. And I sort of looked up to him in a lot of ways. And I said to my mum, I'd like to get my ears pierced. And she's like, yeah, of course, if you want to get your ears pierced, that's fine. But when she never could have her ears pierced because they always get so infected.
Yeah, some people's skin doesn't heal that well.
And she said, well, we can try it if you like. But she said, I think if you're the same as me, you're going to get it done and they're just going to become really infected. So I never went through with it in the end. So no, I've never had my ears pierced.
I have my ears pierced. I have multiple holes in each ear. And my husband, Charlie, actually has both of his ears pierced. And he has since he was like 17. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there are, and depending on where you get the piercing at, like cartilage piercings and stuff. I don't know if you know this, Tim, like the ones at the top of your ears, there's the cartilage, there's the conch or whatever it's called. Those ones, because of so Charlie used to do piercings, and he actually did, not my originals. I got my originals when I was like 7, but he did the second holes for me. Mm-hmm. And so but those two, they have a really hard time healing, the ones on the top of your ear, because of the way the cartilage is. Mm-hmm. And so almost every person who gets those, if it does heal, it takes like a good 5 years for it to finally heal, if it ever heals, because of the type of stuff that's in the top of your ear. So because I talked about doing that one for a long time, and then Charlie kept going, yeah, but it's going to take forever to heal if it ever heals. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I let it go. Also with my curly hair, I probably get hair stuck in the ear thing all the time.
Absolutely. Here's a question. If you have like those gauges in your ears, mm-hmm. That stretch them out.
Yeah, that's what Charlie has.
If you decide you don't want that, does it eventually just go back, or do you end up with huge big loops?
Depends. So depending on how far you go. So Charlie has his gauge, but it's not very big. Like he doesn't have the quarter size ones or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you can even have a blowout where if you gauge it for too much and you stretch it, it breaks. Your ear breaks. Yeah. Most of the time though, if it's been gauged for a really long time and they've gotten big enough that it won't heal back, and you have to go to a plastic surgeon and get it sutured back up.
Oh.
Yeah. And another thing that can happen is what's known as cauliflower ear. That's what I'm looking for. I just yelled that at poor Tim. He's probably lost his eardrums. But it's where whenever you get a piercing, if they do it wrong, or if just it gets basically the backside of your ear swells up like a piece of cauliflower. Ooh. That's what it looks like. Yeah, I think that's what happens to boxers, isn't it? They get cauliflower ears. Yeah, that's another one.
Impacts to their ears.
Yeah, and it might be something to do. It's usually when they use a gun instead of a hollow needle. So the impact of the ear, the gun. That's why they say don't go to this is not to hate on Claire's or anything. I bought plenty of stuff there when I was a kid, but the malls, in America, we have the Claire's. They mm-hmm. still use guns, and most people recommend not going there so you don't end up with cauliflower ear. Even though I did when I was a kid, so. Not the cauliflower ear, but I used a gun.
There we go.
Just to clarify, that had nothing to do with we don't need another hero. But anyway.
There we are. Well, that's the nature of our podcast, Joy. I mean, we celebrate the music of Tina Turner by talking about ear piercing.
It's true. I mean, she had giant earrings in this picture. And I just keep thinking about that because it really does. It weighs on your ears. And if you ever notice sometimes when, especially older ladies who wear really big earrings, their mm-hmm. holes will start to droop because it pulls.
Yeah.
So I could just imagine that would be very painful. All right. What's our next song?
Okay. So this is one you probably have on your list, but I'm going to speak about it anyway. And this is the song Private Dancer.
I am familiar with Private Dancer and it is on one of my lists.
Yeah. And the thing is about Private Dancer, it's a song that's written by Mark Knopfler. Mark Knopfler being the guitar player, singer, songwriter of the band Dire Straits. Mm-hmm. And the other interesting thing about Private Dancer is it has Jeff Beck playing guitar on it.
Huh. So that would have been mid 80s, right?
Yeah, it's early to mid 80s. And this in a lot of ways was seen as sort of a big comeback for Tina Turner, and sort of the Private Dancer album onwards is where she really reached absolute superstardom.
Yeah, I would say that. That's kind of the trajectory of when she kind of went. And then I know Arlene Phillips. I don't know if you know who Arlene Phillips is. She's an English, she's a choreographer, and she was a talent scout. She's in the music video of Private Eyes. And so that's one of the big things that I think she's actually she choreographed the whole like background. I think she's physically in it. And that was just kind of like a little shout out if people don't know she's back there. And she was an English choreographer.
Okay. Yeah. Because there is obviously the song being Private Dancer. I would dance for money. I would do whatever I want you to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point. And I think she's also like a television judge host on one of those. So you think you can dance, so you can't dance. You want to dance. One of those shows. Something about dancing. And I know she worked in the theater world for a long time as well. So she was, but I just know that that's a call out. Is she did the choreography and she's in the music video.
Well, that's pretty cool. But I do like this song. I mean, I like it because it's Tina, but equally I like it because it has Jeff Beck playing guitar on it.
Well, and every one of Tina's songs tend to have a really nice overall. I mean, not every song, but generally one thing I take from Tina Turner is she always has really cool guitar riffs and sound to her music. Like there's really always somebody who's doing a really good job on the guitar in her songs.
Yeah, I think when you sort of rise to that level of superstardom, you can have anyone you want. And I'm sure the people who were helping her and, pushing her in the right direction and, contacts that she would make would be that you could have a Jeff Beck on your song.
I mean, that's fair. You make a good point. But in all seriousness, I just meant like the way the music is written, though, as well. Like there's obviously someone really good playing it, but there always seems to be kind of a focus on like a really cool guitar riff in all of her songs.
As there should be, Joy.
I feel like you're biased, but yes. I mean, good song choice, though, Tim. Good song choice. All right. Trying to think of one. There's so many. Which one do I want to do? Let's go with one of my favorites. And it's huge. It was produced by Phil Spector, so it's larger than life. It's River Deep, Mountain High.
Yeah, that's a song that we used to speak about years ago, long before the internet was invented. We could never really work out what key it's in because the orchestra in the background, it's sort of in the background, and it's hard to hear what's going on. I mean, she's doing really well with the vocal. I mean, it's such a strong, powerful vocal performance. But you try and listen to the orchestra in the background, and you try and figure out what's going on there. It's actually hard to figure that out.
Yeah, and the thing about it is I think it's that wall of sound technique that Phil Spector did, because like you're saying, it's literally like it builds on itself, that background orchestra, and then her singing, it's almost like she's on top of it. It's not very clear. And I mean, it's got the opening horn sound, of course, and like things like that. But that's so cool. I've never really thought about what key it's in.
Yeah, I think you probably could figure it out now. But I remember we used to talk about me and my friend Lefty Pete.
Before Google was available.
Yeah.
But I mean, just hearing it on the radio, I wouldn't be able to. Like certain songs, I could tell you what key they're in just hearing it. That's not one I could. Yeah. Not even a little bit.
Tina's vocal is fabulous, but the orchestra in the background is a little bit fuzzy and indistinct.
But I think that was on purpose. I think it was to emphasize her singing. What was interesting was apparently Phil Spector liked Tina Turner's kind of like controlling attitude and the way she was kind of like a go-getter. He came up with an unusual contract. The album, the single would be credited to Ike and Tina Turner, but was paid. But Ike was paid $20,000 to stay away from the studio. Only Tina's vocals were to be used on the record.
Wow.
Wonder why that was, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, as we found out later on, Phil Spector was not a good person. But I mean,
neither was Ike Turner, though.
Yeah, but I'm glad that he kept Ike out of that business.
Because it could be easily done as a duet. Think about the way the song is kind of arranged. I could see it be used as a duet. And I think I've heard it done as a duet before. Yeah,
it would make perfect sense, especially in the choruses. You can, I mean, I don't think, is she doubling the vocal on there? I'm not sure, but it'd be very easy to do that.
Yeah, she definitely is. Yeah. She definitely is. There's definitely a layer because, like, because even when she's like river deep, mountain high, and you keep hearing her go higher and higher, higher. I'm pretty sure there's a double vocal there, and then at different parts, it's almost like she's harmonizing with herself, which contributes to exactly to what Tim was getting at and the layers on top of the layers, on top of the layers. And for those who don't know, I feel like we've said it on the podcast a few times, but Phil Spector is credited with being known as making the wall of sound. And the wall of sound was so important because whenever they used to listen to music on the jukebox, it would create like building on top of each other, on top of each other. It would give like a full, you know what I mean? When you didn't have surround sound, it still gave a full sound scope around you. And it was designed to sound really well on a jukebox. Tim might be able to explain it a little better than I can, but that's the way I've always understood it.
Yeah, because if you're playing through a jukebox, it would be through a much smaller speaker, which would be more mid-range focused. And certainly back then, a sound system on a jukebox wouldn't be a full hi-fi reproduction. It'd be very mid-rangey, and you'd probably be wanting to make it very loud rather than, a full spectrum of sound. So yeah, it was focusing in those mid-frequencies.
Yeah. And so that was kind of the point, and that's what he's credited. And I'm pretty sure, is he in jail now? Is Phil Spector in jail? Did he die?
I think he died.
I don't know. His hair got bigger and bigger. I'm convinced that's where all the lies were hidden. You guys have never Googled a picture of Phil Spector. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tim? His hair?
Yeah.
Like when he was in the court, his hair just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
I'm going to have a look at it now. Phil Spector.
Just put Phil Spector hair in. It'll come up.
He died in 2021.
Okay.
And yes, I'm looking at the exact picture that you referenced. And it's like, goodness me.
Wow. It didn't always look like that. At least I don't think it did. I mean, unless it's a wig.
No, it's not a wig in the slightest. It's just amazing bouffant hair.
Well, every time you've seen him in the court case, it's like it got bigger because there would be like this famous picture of him in court wearing a suit. And I swear, every time I see him, his hair just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. For those who haven't done it, Google Phil Spector hair. It'll come right up.
Absolutely.
Now, to be fair, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of his court case, it's a crazy one. We don't have time to go into all of that. But it looks like he knew Ike was not a good person from a mile away and kept him out of the. And I'm really happy he did because Tina's layering of her voice on River Deep Mountain High sells that song.
Yes, I would completely agree. She is the star of that recording.
Could you imagine? You know what? You could pay me $20,000 to stay away from something. I'll happily take that money. Oh, Joy, here's $20,000 to stay out of it. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
Unless it was this podcast, Joy, because without you, there would be no podcast.
This is true. But in all seriousness, though, Tim, have you ever been paid money to not do something?
I don't. I mean, I've been paid for gigs that never happened.
Oh, that's true.
Where you've been prepaid for something and then it was cancelled for whatever reason, whether it be weather or whether in the event of like a party or something, someone pulled out or sickness or something. And there's been like a non-refundable deposit that the band has took. So, yeah, I've been paid for doing nothing, but I don't think I've ever been paid for staying away.
I don't think I have either, but if anyone wants to give me $20,000 to stay away, I will stay away. I'll happily take the money. All right, Tim, how much time do we have left? I don't know.
Oh, we got plenty of time for a few more.
Okay, perfect. What's your song? All
right, so this one, I don't know if it's one that you know. Again, from the album Simply the Best, which was my main introduction to the world of Tina Turner. Thanks for our friends at T-Mobile. And this is I Can't Stand the Rain.
Oh, I absolutely know this song. It's a favorite. And it's, once again, black dress, short hair, heels, as Tina. But now, is this an original by her or is it also a cover of something else?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, whether it's an original or a cover. I mean, I know it from Tina Turner's version. Maybe it is a cover thinking about it. But the interesting thing is that when I joined the band Moroccan Soul in the early 2000s, I Can't Stand the Rain was on their original set lists when I joined the band. And I seem to remember we practiced it a few times in the very early days before we went out and did gigs. Yeah. But it never ended up being on the set list. But whenever I hear that song, it always takes me back to that exact period of time when I joined Moroccan Soul.
See, and what I think of, it's funny you say that because the last line of the song is bringing back sweet memories.
There we are. And it brings back those sweet memories of being at John and Linda Jagger's house when they had their house in Hersham Road and that big 3-story. You know, the big 3-story house they had by the vet's office. Do you remember that?
Tim.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I just hang out with them all the time.
Yeah, and then we used to practice in their front room, and then they bought that big house on the Thames, and then we practiced in their garage. Remember all those? Those are good days. But it reminds me of those early days of practicing before we went out and sort of played lots of gigs. Because at the very beginning, we gigged a little bit just as we was getting the set together, and then once you get the set together, we didn't, obviously didn't practice as much.
I guess you're right, though. The song wasn't as much of a hit. I've definitely heard it a million times, but I guess it wasn't like a radio hit for her. I never really thought about it. As soon as you said it, I was surprised. I'm surprised you didn't think I would know it. But then I'm like, looking back, you're right. I've never really heard it like on a movie soundtrack or a TV show or radio. Not really.
And obviously, you spend a lot of time listening to the radio like I do.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Definitely. No, but I did grow up in a household where I had to listen to the radio a lot. No, mostly. You know how I probably know it, Tim? Like everything else, I credit half my music knowledge to VH1's pop-up music video. It formed my childhood.
Did they have great facts on that video, on pop-up music video?
Probably. All I can remember is pop-up video, the little song. And then it would be like, so I would play and then something would come up. I mean, my mom was a big My mom didn't really watch a whole lot of MTV. But she definitely watched a lot of VH1. There was a lot of pop-up music video and behind somebody, you know what I mean, telling their story, whatever those little shows are. I know there was a VH1 America, and you said there was a VH1 in the UK, right?
Yeah, we originally, when like satellite TV and cable TV came out in the early 90s, it was sort of late 80s, early 90s that we started getting multi-channel TV like that. Mm-hmm. Initially, you had MTV Europe, and that was the only music channel you had. And then later on, VH1 came out. And VH1 sort of, at that time, was catering more to classic rock type music. And then MTV started getting involved into rap and hip hop and more contemporary type music. So a lot of your music aficionados moved over to VH1. And then, of course, later on, MTV started having game shows and reality shows and all that kind of nonsense. And they started, and the first one they did, of course, was MTV's The Real World, whereas VH1 focused almost exclusively on music and concerts.
Now, here's a question. You wouldn't know the answer, and I'm not going to know the answer, so I'm putting it out there to the people. Does VH1 still exist?
I think it does, and I think MTV still exists as well. But I think VH1 equally doesn't really play music videos anymore.
Fair enough. I do know there was some controversy, and maybe I need to do a pop-up video episode since it formulated my childhood. There was some artists that asked to be removed. It was Billy Joel and a handful of other people. That's just the first name that I remember. And they said that because it would stop and you'd get a fact or a thing about the music video or an artist or, behind the scenes this. And apparently they thought that they were too harsh. I don't know how you're harsh just giving facts, but I do know there was a handful of artists who complained about the show and got all their music removed.
I wonder if Don Henley did that.
I don't know, but we could call it ask. Because obviously I talk to him all the time. It sounds like something he would do. I mean, to be fair, I don't remember it ever being harsh. I just remember them pausing and being like, and at this part of the music video, Joe whatever did blah, blah, blah. Of course, I was a kid, so maybe it didn't recognize with me.
It could be, but if you're in the entertainment industry, as I am, and you are by default now, you have to have a sense of humor about this stuff.
My favorite thing is Billy Joel's usually a pretty thick-skinned person, and he's not known to be a very he's almost kind of mean to people. You know what I mean? So for him to complain about pop-up music video makes me laugh.
Yeah, that does seem a little bit odd.
Fair enough. All right, I guess it's my turn again, huh?
Yes.
Let's see.
What you got? What strikes you?
I'm just gonna go 100% pure 80s jean jacket, biggest hair you can come up with, biggest earrings you can come up with. What's love got to do with it?
Oh, what a classic!
And her most successful song of all time. Apparently, it was her highest grossing song. It was 1984. It was from the same album as Private Dancer. And it was later used in a film by the same name of Tina's life, which I've watched the What's Love Got to Do with It film 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. It was actually first offered to Cliff Richard, who rejected it. Did you know that, Tim?
I didn't know that. But, at the time, early 80s was peak Cliff. So he would be getting offered the best music from songwriters and the best producers and all that stuff. So now it seems ridiculous to think that could have gone to Cliff. But at the time, it would be a completely viable thing that Cliff would have been offered that. And, it's good that he turned it down because then we get this great Tina song.
Well, apparently it was also offered to Phyllis Hyman, Donna Summer, and Bucks Fizz, which I don't know about the Fizz, but it says the Fizz even recorded a version, but it was shelved as Tina got hers out first.
Are you familiar with Bucks Fizz?
I'm not. I don't know what that is.
Bucks Fizz are a vocal act, two ladies and two gentlemen, who won the Eurovision Song Contest. I think it was 1981 or 1982, with their classic song, Making Your Mind Up.
Oh, I've heard that song before.
Yeah. And they went on to have a very successful pop career during the 80s. And they produced a song called The Land of Make-Believe, which is one of my favorite songs of all time, which does appear in the 1982 Tis Was Boxing Day special that we watch every year. But anyhow, I really love...
specific statements.
Yeah, I really love that song, Land of Make-Believe. And then in the peak of their career, they had a coach crash. And I think one of the guys singers sustained a really bad head injury. And it took him a long time to recover. And I think even after recovery, he wasn't quite the man he was before. And then there was a whole lawsuit later on, like in the 90s, where one of the members of Bucks Fizz left, or two of the members of the Bucks Fizz left, and they created another band called Bucks Fizz. And then the original members who were not in that band had a band called Bucks Fizz. And there was a huge court case. And there was two separate bands called Bucks Fizz. And they were all playing Butlins and holiday camps and places like that. And you never knew which Bucks Fizz you was going to get because they were both the same name. And one of the bands used to be a band called Dollar, but they changed the name into Bucks Fizz. It was a whole thing. And then somebody left. And then you ended up with a Bucks Fizz that didn't have any members of Bucks Fizz. And it became a whole thing. And then I think somehow they reconciled all these differences and they became Bucks Fizz again. And then one of the key members left, and now they're called The Fizz.
Well, now you need to go on a Google and see if you can find The Fizz's version of What's Love Got to Do with It.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's probably out there. I mean, in the age of these expanded releases and expanded CD sets and stuff like that, where every demo version and take is out there for the world to listen to, there has to be a version of Bucks Fizz doing that.
There has to be. I mean, it's not like they said that the version got shelved because Tina got hers out first. So at some point they probably produced theirs. It was just hers was a bigger hit.
Yeah, and as much as I love the pop stylings of Bucks Fizz, it would not be as good as Tina Turner's version.
I mean, well, and that's what's so interesting. That's what we were talking about. Tina is everything she does. When she sings, she really is one of those definition, put your soul into it kind of singers. So when she's saying, what's love got to do with it? You really feel that in your soul. Mm-hmm. So I can't imagine trying to compete with her. And that would be hard, no matter who you are. No,
you couldn't. I mean, if you had a Freddie Mercury or someone like that singing it, yes, it would be a comparable performance. But 80s pop starlets, Bucks Fizz, probably
not. I just realized, though, on a random note, looking at this, she really had a thing for big earrings. Like I'm scrolling through my songs and they got like little pictures of the album covers, it's like that, or video covers. And she did have a big thing for big earrings. I just now realized that. So her ears are probably very sore.
Big earrings. I mean, it's the whole look.
It all goes in hand. You're right. I guess I never really noticed it till now. Sorry, Tina, I didn't notice the earrings.
We're celebrating her music and we're celebrating her ear stylings.
I mean, she was a very stylish person, don't get me wrong. So it all makes sense. It comes full circle.
100%. Well, I have a Tina song here. Okay. And this is one that you haven't said yet. And this is maybe an obvious choice, but it comes from that peak 80s, 90s era of Tina. And of course, this is The Best.
Oh yeah, better than all this. And then Bonnie Tyler like originally recorded that, right?
Yes.
So I've heard both versions. I mean, Tina's was a much bigger hit, but I actually liked both of them. I thought they were both good.
Yeah, but Bonnie Tyler is great, though. I mean, Bonnie Tyler has such a huge, powerful voice, and she has that kind of like presence like Tina Turner did.
Yeah, they fit together. I could see how that could work, but I've heard both versions, but I will say I prefer Tina's version.
Yeah,
I see why it was the bigger hit of the two.
But did Tina Turner ever record Total Eclipse of the Heart? Probably not.
No, but I now want to Google it because if she did like a live version, I bet it would be really cool.
It would be. And Tina did covers live. I mean, it wouldn't have been outside the realm of possibility that something she could have done.
I mean, she was simply the best, better than all the rest.
Well, of course, when we know with this, we know Tina. And that's why we're celebrating you this evening.
And every time as soon as someone says the best, my heart always goes, better than, like, I can't not say it. Like, that's all that comes to mind. And that would have been, what, 9 or 8, like, probably the year I was born, 1990 is when that song came out.
Something like that. I don't have the dates up on my list.
It's obviously the year I was born, Tim. Think about it. It was written about me. Duh. Of course. I don't even know who penned it. Whoever penned that song knew I was going to be born that year. And the song is obviously a dedication to me.
Well, of course. I mean, if you go on your Spotify's, I think it actually says that in the like little footnote at the bottom.
There's just a picture of me in the corner with the best written underneath it as the caption. Oh, Lord. Now that song though is one, once again though, like I said, she does such a good job at like everything she does. It's like I don't know how else to say it. She does the definition of singing from your soul.
Sure. Do you know what this song reminds me of in a way?
What's that?
It's Queen's We Are the Champions. It's got that real over the top bravado.
Yeah. And she just goes hard at it too. Yeah. Did you ever see Tina Turner live?
No, I never did. I mean, again, she played at Wembley 10 times in my lifetime. Why was I sitting in my house in Hounslow and not driving 14 miles down the road or being taken 14 miles down the road and seeing Tina Turner at Wembley?
Heck, Tim, at that point, you could have walked 14 miles. It might have been worth it. Good Lord.
The amount of people now, especially as we begin to lose these iconic artists. And I think to myself, I lived in West London. I could have got on the tube at Hounslow Central and gone to, it's a couple of changes, but come off at Wembley Park. Mm-hmm. And it's just there. And this was an era when concert tickets were nothing. I mean, I'm sure that the price to see Tina Turner at Wembley Stadium last time she played there was £20 or something. In fact, I'm going to look it up right now. I'm going to find a concert ticket. Where are we?
No, Tina, you're just going to make me sick because I'm going to think about how much concert tickets cost now versus then.
Oh. Where are we? Ticket. Where are we? Images. Okay. Tina Turner on the Break Every Rule Tour, 1987. This is Wembley Arena. This isn't Wembley Stadium. £14.50, which is about $20, even adjusted for inflation.
Jesus.
Yeah, and here's another one. Look at this. Tina Turner, Wembley Stadium, Saturday, 15th of July, 2000. So, 23 years ago. But that price, £30.
You know what's even more depressing about that statement is you just reminded me 2000 was 23 years ago.
I know. I mean, that is pretty depressing. But I mean, again, adjust that for inflation, £50 maybe, $60 to see Tina Turner at Wembley.
Whereas every concert ticket I've ever bought in the last 5 years has costed at least $100.
Oh, it's absolutely absurd. And as I've said before, I wanted to see Queen and Adam Lambert, not because I particularly care for that combination, but I wanted to see Brian May one more time. Yeah. And when the base ticket starts about $350, and then like Ticketmaster are doing dynamic pricing where depending on when you buy it, it's how much it costs. And if you want to get on the floor anywhere near Brian May, the tickets are over $1,000. It's just like, I'm checking out this process completely.
Tim's like, I can't sell a kidney to go to a concert.
Oh, it's absurd. I mean, I'll spend $200 on box sets and things, but I have a tangible item that I have in my collection. But spending, $1,200 for one ticket. So like Hannah and I both go, that's $2,500. I mean, that's...
And we have to drive significantly to get to anywhere that's going to have that. Tim knows what I'm saying. For us to get to that concert, it's probably a good 2.5 hour drive both ways. So you're paying for gas. You might get a hotel. You're going to have to eat. You know what I mean, Tim? It just keeps racking up.
Yeah, for $2,500, I'd rather go to like Hawaii or something for like a week.
I mean, Charlie just flew all the way to the West Coast and didn't spend that much money. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a lot of money for just a concert. I understand, like, I love the idea of experiencing things. You know what I mean, Tim? But on the same side, it's like, I just don't have the money in me to have to sell a kidney to go see a concert.
No, and I understand that the whole model of the music industry has changed, where they don't make anything from record sales and it's all in the touring. And then that is where the money is being made. And, to some degree, we only have ourselves to blame because we're all the people using Napster and Grokster and eDonkey and burning CDs and all that stuff.
I never did any of that, Tim.
No, I mean,
what are you talking about?
You didn't. But I mean,
what's a LimeWire?
But by the same degree, I mean, I want to be live in a world where I can see someone of the stature and caliber of Tina Turner, a stadium for £30 or thereabouts. Not seeing someone of her stature and caliber now, where that's going to cost $300 to go and see.
Well, and I think with all the drama with Ticketmaster, some of that's coming out. I think it's becoming more of a talked about thing. So maybe, hopefully, we can, do some adjustments.
Well, it's what the market will bear, and the market seems to be bearing it. And then all these shows seem to be sold out, so I can't see it changing anytime soon.
I mean, you've heard about the whole the Taylor Swift, I can't even begin to imagine how much money was made off this Taylor Swift concert tour. And that's crazy to me. I don't even want to spend that much to see someone like Tina Turner. I'm not spending that much to see freaking Taylor Swift. I'm sorry, no.
No, I mean, some people love Taylor Swift.
Oh,
Taylor
yeah,
Swift,
but I'm just
Taylor
saying,
Swift is the person that really makes you happy. I mean, it's fine, but it seems to be the bulk of our audience are younger people.
Yeah, that's
and where do younger people have $300, $400, $500 a pop to get a ticket to see Taylor Swift?
Well, and some of those with all the stuff that happened with people scalping and stuff, there were people spending thousands upon thousands of dollars. And I get it. If you love her, go see her. I'm not judging you. I'm saying for my music taste, I'm not spending that much to go see Taylor Swift. What I'm getting at is like these larger than life artists who've been around for years. I don't even know that I would spend that much to go see them.
No, and I certainly wouldn't pay that kind of money to see Eagles with Don Henley involved.
Now, just out of spite.
I enjoy the music of Eagles. I really like it.
I do too.
And there's some great music there. My favorite Eagles track is called "The Journey of the Sorcerer," which is a instrumental track, which is actually used in the opening titles of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It is, and I absolutely love The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I will say, I'm a Heartache Tonight kind of girl. That's my favorite.
Yeah, there's so many classics, but sadly, there's Don Henley's involved in it.
We just can't put a version of it on the internet.
Oh, goodness me.
But how do I get that job? I mean, if he pays well, I'll go on and find videos on YouTube.
60 people on the Henley payroll.
Can you imagine? I mean, I'll run payroll. Tim knows I'm capable of doing that. Done it many times. All right. Is it my song or your song?
Well, I tell you what, Joy, you do a song, I do a song, and then we'll close this episode out.
Well, since we were talking about the biopic, What's Love Got to Do with It? For those who don't know, it was back in 1993. Angela Bassett played Tina. Lawrence Fishburne played Ike. And this song kind of became the song of their story, like the song of the movie. It's I Don't Want to Fight, which if you know about Tina and Ike's history, it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. It was written by Lulu, the 60s British pop star. Mm-hmm. I did not know that till I started looking up stuff for this, but she wrote it and she said she didn't have anyone in mind when she wrote the lyrics. It was just a song about not wanting to fight with someone, and you just giving up. And she said that when she heard Tina's version, it could never be done by anybody else because she did it so well.
Yeah, Lulu was a pop singer in the 60s, in the swinging 60s. And of course, she had that famous song, Shout.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with who she is. I just was surprised. Did she write a lot of music for other artists? That part I don't think I knew.
I don't know, maybe. Because, I mean, like, Lulu from her classic swinging 60s days, but maybe that's what happened to her, is that she ended up just getting into songwriting.
Because, I mean, I'm definitely a To Serve With Love fan. I love that song. And then there was a movie, I think, that it was associated with, but I'm not super familiar with the movie. Or Me Oh My, I think, was also Lulu. And some other things, like you said, Shout. But I didn't pin her as writing this song because it doesn't really seem to fit the mold of the other songs she wrote. But who knows? For all I know, she's wrote like thousands of songs under some pseudonym or something. And somebody's screaming at the radio at me right now.
It could be. Do you remember the pop singer Kathy Dennis?
Yes.
So my friend John the bass, John Blackburn, who I played with in a band called Tag, he lived in Feltham. He actually now lives in New Zealand, believe it or not. He met someone from I think from San Diego, and then they moved to New Zealand.
Okay.
And he has, beside the point. Last time I spoke to him was a few years ago, and he was enjoying a very nice life over in New Zealand. But he got in with Kathy Dennis somehow. I think he had a few music connections, and he played in bands and stuff like that after I played with him. And he ended up being in Kathy Dennis's touring band. He was also in. Do you remember Skunk Anansi?
That I don't know.
Okay, well, the singer from Skunk Anansi, Skin, he played in her band for a while, but that's beside the point. But anyway, he was with Kathy Dennis for a number of years.
Okay.
And Kathy Dennis had a pop career, that you've probably heard of.
In the early 90s.
Yeah, but then she went into songwriting. I think she's always a songwriter, and a lot of pop music from there on in was actually written or co-written by Kathy Dennis.
So she's one of those, like I was saying, like I said, maybe Lulu does. There's a lot of hidden names people don't know behind music. And so, I didn't know that, Tim.
Yeah, and unusually she's not Swedish.
Why? Oh, because of Swedish pop. It took me a minute to realize where Tim was going with that. It's true. She's not. I was just talking to somebody the other day about the Swedish pop thing, and everybody, who was I telling? All the boy bands of my childhood and pop girl bands were all from Swedish, and they're like, they were. And I went down that rabbit hole, and they're like, that's so random. And I'm like, yeah, me and Tim haven't quite figured it out yet. One day we will.
One day it will happen. All right. Well, let me just close out with one last song. And again, this is from the hallowed compilation, Simply the Best, which is where all my Tina Turner knowledge comes from and appreciation comes from. And this is the song, Better Be Good to Me.
Oh, this is a great one to end it with, too. Once again, one of her best, like, sassy, like, steal the show kind of songs. Yeah,
and it was featured in an episode of Miami Vice as well.
I mean, I wouldn't have known that, but I'll take your word for it. I think that's what sold her so well, though, is that, yes, she's a little rough around the edges, but when she tells a song, this is what it is. This is what it is. I don't want to say she's saying she does a good job of what I kind of say is storytelling singing. Dolly Parton does it a little bit, like that kind of thing where it's like they're telling you a story. And because they sing so well, it comes out so easy. Like when they're saying it, it sounds like they're talking to you because they're such good singers. There's not like any, like it doesn't require, it's so easy on the ears. They're telling you this story. They're painting you a picture. But when they're singing, it's almost like they're talking to you. And that's because their voices are so good that it just comes out so easy. That's what it is. That's the word I'm trying to find. And that's how it perfectly describes her. Yes, she's a little rough around the edges. And yes, she does like the sassy kind of thing we're talking about. And she's a great dancer, great on stage. But that's what's so iconic about some of these, especially, and it happens a lot with female singers, I feel. When they're really easy on the ears, but they're really talented, it's almost like they're talking to you. Yeah, I completely get that. Yep, that's my description. And point of the matter is, this is a good song that she did that on. Also, I think that she speaks from a lot of heartache, because if you don't know her story with Ike, I think some of it's personal. All right, what do you have for the people, Tim? Just be extra kind to everyone you meet and extra kind to all of your pets. Oh, yes, I agree with everything Tim just said. And bye. See you later. Bye-bye.